Childhood. One of the most impactful words to use when describing your personal life. In many ways, getting exposed to a hobby as a child, we think of it as some of the best moments in the world to us. It comes in many shape or forms. Like for example, my childhood TV show to watch is Thomas the Tank Engine. My childhood food is baby custard. Those things are still delicious to eat as an adult, by the way. And my childhood sport would have to be soccer/football, depending on where you say it in your region. As far as my favorite childhood video game is concerned, I do often think about Crash Bandicoot 2 Cortex Strikes Back. It's the very first game I got to play after all, and I reckon I wouldn't be here making videos in the first place if it wasn't for the Crash Bandicoot series. But there is another game that just screams out childhood to me, and that would be The Emperor's New Groove on the PlayStation 1. Having to say the name and just by looking at the title, it is pretty obvious what game we're talking about today. I absolutely loved the movie as a child, and even to this day, it holds up pretty well in my opinion. So imagine my reaction when my parents got me the video game based on the movie. It probably went something like this. Even though this is my favorite childhood video game, I am not going to take it easy on it. As always, if I notice something negative or off-putting to me, I will be calling out on it. But yeah, still, I am looking forward to playing this game once again, so yeah, can't wait. So with the story this game presents, it is identical to the movie. Emperor Kuzco rules his palace with an iron fist, gets turned into a llama for his troubles, and now Kuzco, along with some help from Pacha, makes his way back to the palace and changes himself back to a human. I'm sure we've experienced this in real life one way or another. We begin to boot the game up and Pacha is staring at Kuzco's butt. You better not be doing what I think you're doing. The game places you in the aftermath of Kuzco realizing he's a llama instead of seeing Kuzco dancing around to his theme song. And there is a major difference in terms of story within the game compared to the movie, and I do believe it's a negative. In the movie, while Kuzco and Pacha are heading back to the palace, Kuzco has a change of heart and learns to be more kind and more respectful to many people surrounding him. But in the game, Kuzco just acts like a dick throughout the entire game, being rude to strangers along the way and poking and making fun of Pacha's weight. I do get it though, without the sarcastic remarks, the game's Kuzco would have been boring. But I guess I noticed this straight away because I love the movie so much that anything I see in the game that translates from the movie, I recognize it immediately. Also, another thing I noticed, there was no Pacha's wife in the game. I believe she served a good purpose in the movie, and it's just weird to not see her in the game. Throughout the game, it constantly breaks the fourth wall with any chance it gets. Yeah, the Jack 3 one was a bit cringy, but the fourth wall breaking here is really noticeable. I believe the movie did this maybe once or twice, and the game itself just loves to put out its fourth wall breaking moments. Don't get me wrong, the writing here is pretty hilarious, and I love it when it's telling you the obvious method on how to get to the next section, and Kuzco just reacts in a sarcastic/childish humor.
Just don't charge around by the tree, okay?
But then again, when it comes to Disney games, the gameplay is where the main focus is. The graphics look okay for its time. It's colourful and nicely presentable. It's not the best PlayStation 1 graphics overall, but I have witnessed a lot worse in my timeline. As a 3D platformer, the controls is what makes the experience feel great. So, the control handling for Kuzco in The Emperor's New Groove is surprisingly good. I can confidently move him around knowing that I have control with his jumping and walking him around, and if I fail, then I know it was my fault and not some bullshit excuse. Although there were some moments that I thought to myself that I made that platform but didn't. In the game, you can jump, charge, kick, spit grape seeds, and even do this jump kick while in mid-air, and this is so helpful. When using it, it gives a 1-second pause up in the air, meaning that if I know I missed a platform, I can just use the jump kick and it will take me back to the right direction. This is a very useful feature to use if anyone has played The Emperor's New Groove or is wanting to try this game out. The level designs are pretty good. It follows the events from Cusco leaving the village to eventually making his way back to the palace to claim his throne. You get to explore around the village, the jungles between night and day, the mountains, the catacombs, and much more. Each level is labeled as chapters. You go from chapter 1, level 1, chapter 1, level 2, and so on until you reach over to chapter 2, level 1. Remember this 30-second scene that features Cusco and Pacha tied up to a log, floating down the river? Well, how about an entire chapter being dedicated to that subject? That sounds pretty creative. It does follow the journey from the movie quite well. The only thing I will say is that I would have liked to have a minigame of Cusco and Pacha falling down near a pit full of crocodiles and you have to use the directional buttons to climb back up by working together. But I don't mind if it's not there. It probably would have been complicated to design that feature anyway. Most of the game does have a focus on platforming, but there's other times where you'll witness new gameplay features, like the log as mentioned earlier, running away from jaguars. This was very challenging for me back in the day. I always had to call my father over to help me out back as a kid. I can thankfully do it now on my own, but with the amount of tapping buttons on my controller, my hands got very sore afterwards. Almost like that one night in a hotel room you end up regretting. And you can also do some stealth gameplay as you try to make it from A to B without getting caught by the guards. Doing some Metal Gear Llama, if you will.
Cusco? Cusco! Cusco!
And finally, you have the roller coaster segment as you guide your way down to complete the level. I absolutely hate this part. For starters, it's very slippery to move around, and the faster you go, the tougher it can be to control. It also doesn't give you enough information on how the level structure goes. It only tells you to line up with the corners, and that's it. It doesn't mention anything about turning the coaster around and making the controls inverted. The two kids gave you instructions for other bits and pieces, so why not here? This game includes a charge bar. When collecting 5 coins or 1 gold coin, your charge bar will increase, allowing you to charge. It can run out quickly, so you always have to keep an eye out for these icons to fill your charge meter back up. The main item to find is the red idol. Once collecting them by finishing up a task or seeing them out in the open, you can use them to progress into the level or completing a level. Cusco has a health bar which resembles a crown. Every time you talk shit get hit bruh, you lose part of your health. You can heal yourself by eating some delicious yum-yums.
Yum yum.
But if you lose all your health, you'll have to start the level again. Thankfully, you can collect Wumpies. They act as a continuation in the level, so you won't have to restart the level all over again. What sucks about these, however, is when you save your game and turn off the console to take a break, and when you come back to the game, all the Wumpies you have collected just disappear out of thin air. This really blows, and it does beg the question on why even bother collecting them if they're not gonna stay with you at all. A big feature this game has is Cusco can drink some potions to change to a different animal, from a turtle, who moves very slowly but makes up for the race segments, a frog who leaps very far depending on how filled the meter is, and finally, a bunny, who can jump pretty high to reach the next platform. They pretty much serve as a gimmick in the game, and to be honest, I would have liked to have seen more different animals you could potentially play as. Maybe a jaguar, for example, so I don't have to get chased by them all the bloody time. There are recognizable characters that'll make an appearance here, while others are pretty, well, I don't want to say weird, but random. Yeah, random is probably the word I'm searching for. You have noticeable characters like Pacha and the two kids as mentioned earlier, as well as the annoying squirrel, Yzma, and her right-hand man Kronk, who'll show up later on in the game. But they also introduce brand new characters as well. I'd say it's a good idea because it keeps things fresh, but These encounters can be very random, like helping a person out finding his underwear, helping an elderly man find his bunny, another older man who gives out hints and advice for different things you might come across later in the game.
If I had 4 balloons, I'd use them to get out of here.
Yeah, I feel you, buddy. And you have a kid who is supposed to be Cusco's rival, but Cusco doesn't take him seriously as you continually destroy his llama bike. He does come back more often than usual compared to other new characters to try and one-up him.
Let's see how Cusco fares in my new llama bike!
These new character personalities can come out of nowhere, but it never becomes boring in the game. It does get interesting seeing some new faces, until you witness Condor Man.
I am Condor Man. Tweet tweet.
Yeah, I haven't studied the language of a bird, so I haven't got the slightest idea of what he just said.
Tweet tweet!
Who the hell are you supposed to be? Tweet tweet. Tweet 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 tweet. I have absolutely no idea what you are saying. Get out of this house right now. Out of this house.
Oh, tweet. Tweet.
Yeah, that's right. Go, get out of here. No one wants you here. Go flap your wings or move your arms around. I don't know. You can use your imagination. Then I'm supposedly flying off. If there is a massive highlight the game has, it's got to be the music. The soundtrack here is not only very catchy, but also enjoyable and somewhat atmospheric. The music, I'll admit, can feel repetitive as some of the OST plays in different areas depending on what level, but regardless, it still sounds nice. I don't often do this nowadays, but here's just an example as I show off my personal favorite song in the game. The pacing of this game does run smoothly until the third act of the game. I'm not sure why, but the third act when you finally enter the palace feels rushed, especially when you hear the same music as heard before, and even listening to the same dialogue all the way back in chapter 1. So as for the bosses, they're not great. Most of the time you are facing Yzma in different segues to move on to the next chapter. To me, they don't feel like bosses, only small segments to go through. And that goes the same with Kronk as well, as you race down to the bottom of the hill and collecting the most items in the ice skating challenge. And as for Yzma, you don't technically attack Yzma as you hit the blow up animal balloons to unlock a pathway and get her to throw potions at the pads to open up a door. And that was the Emperor's New Groove. Yeah, it's a pretty outdated video game, and sure it may be another generic 3D platformer, but compared to the Disney platform games I've played like Lilo & Stitch Trouble in Paradise and Treasure Planet, this is by far the best one I've experienced. It accomplishes what I want out of it, following the events of the movie, but also not afraid to try out new ideas. And new ideas are exactly what we got. Even if it doesn't work at times, at least they gave it a go. The controls are good, levels are nice, and the soundtrack sounds enjoyable. And while this game does have its fair share of issues, I believe it never distracted me from my overall experience the game tries to present. If I was reviewing this game as a kid, it'll get an 11 out of 10, no questions asked. But I do have to be completely honest. It's a good game, but it's definitely not groundbreaking or even a masterpiece at that. So with that said, I'll be giving The Emperor's New Groove the score of 7 out of 10. It'll forever go down as one of my favorite childhood games, and I am so glad that I was able to play this game as a kid. But anyway, that's going to wrap up this video. I thank you all so much for watching, and if you enjoyed this video, then make sure to leave a like, share the video, and subscribe to the channel. You can follow me on Instagram, the link will be down in the description box below, and as always, take care, thank you for watching, and have yourself a merry little Christmas.